everybody, welcome Star Citizens and Meridian members. This is quite a random short video, because it's actually a request from the comment. Yes, you guys can actually request videos and I will do them if I think they're going to be a good idea. This request comes from XX Pilton. XX, I'll just throw up a little conversation now, and they asked, what are my specs, because my game runs really smoothly. So that is what this video is going to be about. So first thing we're actually going to do is we'll just get up, and I'm just going to quickly demonstrate one of the first things that you should do before playing with all your things, and that is you need to press the tilde key to open the console. Or the tilde key, I'll just quickly flash up where that is on your actual keyboard. It's either on your hashtag key or on the key in the top left corner. So you just press that and you open the console. Now, into this console, you do R_display info, all of one word, space 3, and then press enter. Then you close this, and this will give you a bunch of display information. Your FPS, which is very nicely sitting at 30, server FPS as well, so that's kind of useful, and ping and that sort of thing. It will also show you what your GPU memory is, so that's helpful to know if you're maxing out your settings. It also shows the RAM as well, so we can see that 90 gigabytes of RAM is being used, and the OS has committed 26 gigabytes to the actual game. Anyway, the important thing is to have this up so you can watch graphic changes. But first, before we go into any graphics editing settings, we need to know how far you need to change stuff. So firstly, we're actually going to look at the game specifications. So here we are looking at the actual specifications for Star Citizen. So firstly, Windows 10 operating system, everyone has that. Now, CPU, Intel i7, Sandy Bridge or later, AMD Bulldozer or later. These are just architecture, so providing you have like an i7 and later, you're fine. AMD Bulldozer, little tricky, but basically the first AMD chipset to have Bulldozer was the FX series, so if you've got the FX series or beyond, you're fine. GPU is basically anything with 4 gigabytes of VRAM and can run DirectX 11. Memory, 16 gigabytes. This is where I actually differ with Star Citizen on this. Please do not run the game with 16 gigabytes. You have to have 32. I'm sorry, I've tried running it on 16. It's not fun. It's not a good experience. Just don't do it. Go with 32. You will thank me. Storage, everyone has that, but it has to be SSD. And I don't actually think Star Citizen lets you install it on a hard drive. If you're still confused about the graphics card, there are some examples here, like anything better than the NVIDIA 1060, AMD RTX 5700, or the Intel A380. Now, CPU, just a lot clearer. Intel i7, Sandy Bridge or later. AMD Ryzen 5 or later. I've got Ryzen 5 and I have no problems. And I will say the CPU is quite important. I will get into that later. GPU, DirectX 12, any graphics card with 18 gigabytes of RAM, basically. 32 gigabytes of RAM and 150 SSD. So literally, the only major requirements I will say is that going to be good CPU, good graphics card, and definitely the 32 gig. Getting onto the CPU. Star Citizen is a game which actually is very CPU heavy. It fully uses as much of the CPU as it can. So if you don't have a decent CPU, you are probably going to run into a lot of problems. So this is certainly a game where CPU definitely does matter. Other games, not so much. Just bear in mind as well, some days when playing Star Citizen, you will just be hit with a bad server, which can also affect things negatively. Now, if we go on to my specs, it's very simple. I am just running a Ryzen 5 3600, a RTX 3050, and 32 gig of RAM, as well as a 1 terabyte SSD. So overall, I'm pretty set, and that is why my game runs quite smoothly. Back into the game itself, we are actually going to mess with a couple of the settings. So resolution, you shouldn't really need to play with this. It should just be your monitor. If you're having massive problems, you can reduce this down. So for me, it'd be to 1280 by 720, and it will still fit the screen. It'll just be a very low resolution. So that can help. Borderless, literally full screen, doesn't even matter. Now this one, graphics renderer, you can switch it to Vulkan. You will need to restart your game. And Vulkan, I found, have been very mixed. A friend of mine has actually played with Vulkan and got better performance, but found that the game is significantly glitchier. So it's very much pick your poison with that. Like, because if your game's breaking and you're on direct... But if your game's breaking and you choose to Vulkan, just bear in mind you will probably launch into a whole world of issues on your own. So just, you can do it, be wary, is all I'm saying. Upscaling, I will say, I haven't actually played with, so I generally use this off. Same with HDR, it's not available to me. Now, quality. You have generally better support putting this on high because it takes strain off the CPU. So I would actually keep this as high, or if your GPU can stand it, very high. Scattered object distance. This varies massively depending on where you are. Ordinarily, if you're going to stay in Stanton, I'd put it medium. Okay, if you are going to Pyro, I would mess around and put it on low. This is because that a lot of the Pyro stations have debris around them, and the stations are also filled with more stuff. And everything's wrecky, there's a lot more objects within it. The water, I haven't actually messed with. Terrain tessellation, not really much impact as well. Shadows, I mean, I would recommend kind of leaving that where it is. I mean, you can turn it down if you want. Volumetric clouds, I generally leave this on medium. It depends how much you're flying around a planet, but generally I'd leave it where it is, medium or high. It just depends what you can do. Now, field of view, I don't know why mine is at 86. I think the default is actually 90. So yeah, just leave it at 90. You can turn it down if you need to. Motion blur, generally this can be quite problematic, so turn it off. I like to have it on just because I actually like motion blur in games. But I know quite a lot of people don't, and that does have quite a big performance impact, so I would turn that off. Now, VSync, of course, very controversial one. I'm going to leave that up to you. As for sharpening, chromatic, aberration, and film grain, all of these have basically a very negligible impact. I'd leave them however you want, but yeah, I just leave them at default, to be honest. And that is basically it for graphic settings. Right, the final thing is to turn this menu off so you can get back to a more kind of normal view. You just simply do display info 0, and you have to type it. It doesn't actually work if you just copy and paste the command in. You have to physically type it. But anyway, that about wraps it up for this episode of Star Citizen. I will hope to catch you in the next one. Thank you all for watching and have a wonderful day. Goodbye.